No,
the segue.
doesn't want to be here.
Amazing.
Yay!
And I'm Sarah, your stepdad who also drinks beer, and is the other cult leader. Plus
Because
one is
that's
a weird
unusual for stepdads.
plus one is a weird little friend that
Fun little
multi-classes in
twist on
tabletop games,
stepdads.
Feared Instinct for alchemy, and the Bardic College of content creation. The dream and hope here at Plus One is to help amazing designers find great players who love their games and help amazing players find great designers whose game they can love while also drinking beer. Yes.
Were you
Oh
muted?
my gosh.
Dun
Keegan was
dun
muted.
dun.
Ah!
That's wild.
Well,
I
Keegan
don't-
said a bunch
You're
of
the
mean
best.
things about me, so if you could say the nice ones this time, please,
Yeah.
that would be great.
Can we
That's-
just, I want to give some points of chaos to change reality, please and thank you.
Oh my
Going
god,
back.
what a time. I didn't even think to check my own mic levels. Hopefully this works. We're having to use my webcam's audio, because I just upgraded my computer and now nothing works how it's supposed to.
We'll go over what you guys missed. We have Caleb here, and Caleb is great and awesome, and is the lead designer and creative director of Triangle Agency, founder of the new game studio Haunted Table, professional GM, author of some children's books, and Triangle Agency is crowdfunding on Kickstarter, so you should check it out if you haven't. The link is under Keegan's head.
Thank you.
Wow, you really did do that exactly right. That was great.
Can people hear me now? I'm just gonna talk for a second.
I think that's great.
Hopefully
And good.
that works.
And a very good
Okay,
sign.
cool. My levels are
I think that's a good sign. We can, says Heck. Thank you. An MVP for life. Caleb, hi, welcome to Character Study. We're so excited to have you.
This is maybe the most chaotic start we've had to a thing since
PAX. we set the stage for this. All the posts we made today were like, listen, if you want to come, you can come, but we're here to hang out.
This is for us, legitimately. Everybody else, who cares?
But
Caleb,
I'm so glad people are here.
I'm glad that people are here too. I'm mostly glad that you're here because I have a lot of questions, and I'm really excited to jump into it. But first, Caleb, we've talked a little bit about who you are. That's very cool. That's very neat. I want to know, before we get into the very cool game that is Triangle Agency, what got you into TTRPGs in the first place? Like, what's your origin story here?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So my big one, if like totally honest, I played a little bit of D&D as a kid, but the version of role playing that I did the most started at Neopets. Right? It was like playing as people that could transform back and forth into wolves on Neopets guilds.
Wow.
That was like I was like 7 or 8. Found a group of friends who are still my friends today. I talked to a lot of them from that Neopets role playing guild. And then the big one, the one that I think actually really reshaped my life, was the game Neverwinter Nights. It was a digital version of D&D at the time with its own kind of like twists and changes on it, where people could build using the game's tools like entire worlds, game worlds themselves. They would be run by multiple people who functioned as GMs at different times, and you could make a character, enter that world, and then it was just this persistent 24-hour place where everybody would go to roleplay. And I played a series of cat girls for the next 4 years. I was something about like being like 9 to 12 and realizing like, oh, I can see what it's like to be another gender. I can like make up my own character type that's not even really part of the game. When I was 11, I think, ish, I had this very incredible moment, especially considering how weird the internet was at the time, where this person who was a GM, which means they could see all the dialogue across the whole server all at the same time, and was like kind of monitoring what was happening, sent me a private message that was like, I think they flagged like, oh, this is like someone very young playing a cat person in this place full of adults that are role playing. but they sent me a private message that was like, hey, just checking because I want to make sure that like everything's chill. Like, how old are you? And I was like scared at that moment, like, oh no, like, am I in trouble? Like, what did I do? And I responded back with this like, oh, I'm 11. And what they said was this like thing now. At the time, it stuck with me for years. I was so proud of it. But now I see what they were doing in such a kind way. Was they were like, first of all, it's so cool that you're role playing so well for someone your age. It's amazing. You've been doing something that's not even part of the game. That's so cool. I'm also going to make sure that everybody else here knows that you're 11.
Yes.
So that they all know how to act around you. But they structured it with this like incredible kind flattery that started with like, you're doing such a great job for being 11. And I think that little piece of praise kept me going and role playing and sticking to it for like 5 years.
That's amazing though. And like, what a cool mod to just recognize like, hey, you're here for a good time. We're just gonna make sure everyone can still have a good time and we're all cool. And then everyone proceeds to be cool. I love that. That's awesome. It was
really nice. And I on and off did Neverwinter Nights role playing through college. I was same original game.
That's
and then
awesome.
that got mixed in with tabletop stuff here and there. But because it was so always accessible to me, it was definitely the easiest way for me to play something like a tabletop game. And then by the time I got into college, I started finding other people who would play with me. I was doing a ton of immersive and interactive theater work, which has a lot in combination with it. So tabletop was an easy transition. And then in the last 5-6 years, I've been running games all the time. I worked at an after-school program for a while, and now I'm making one.
Nice. Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the drive to like the design piece of things, was it just like playing games and saying like, I wish I could do XYZ? Was it like, what was the onus for that?
Yeah, it is, I think, a pretty common feeling, which is that I played games a lot and was playing a lot of different people's games and just wanted to combine a bunch of different feelings that I really liked from other games into one place where I could play them all in the same spot and where I thought they would be good in combination with each other. And Sean and I think what really turned my design brain on was having to play Dungeons and Dragons with children a lot. I was at this after-school program playing D&D with these kids who were the same age I was at the story, right? Like 9 to 11.
Yeah.
And was having to watch them like only want to play D&D because that was like the brand, and then have to like engage with those rules, see how to interface with each other while they're playing. Like kids have the least practice with the protecting themselves from game bleed and like understanding where their personality kind of ends and where the game starts. And Andy Pascal. So cute.
Sorry. We just really need to be a part of this.
And watching that and seeing them engage with the game in these really particular and like very direct and emotional ways had me every day with Sean, my co-designer, who was also at this after school program, talking about like, how could I make this better for them? Like, what could I do to make this better for them? And while the game I ended up wanting to make really isn't specifically for kids at all, it follows a lot of what I learned in that time, which is like, kids are being very obvious about some of this stuff that they have issues with or struggle with tabletop games or want to see in a tabletop game. They're very clear and obvious about it, but all of us have a lot of the same stuff, I think.
Right. Like there's a reason that they're wanting to do the things, and there's a reason that they're struggling with certain aspects. So what if we just like listened to them and made those changes, right? What if we just did what we wanted to?
Yes. And after years of running games for kids and basically every single session coming up with brand new mechanics to keep the game interesting and like homebrewing everything and redoing everything, I was like, oh, I can just do this one day.
We just don't need this. We just don't need this game anymore. We've made something new. Let's just acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think that's a great way to segue into Triangle Agency, which is a game that you have made and is frankly very good. I don't know how to be unbiased about what we're about to do here because I love Triangle Agency and everything about it. Like, it's truly like, be Sarah at a convention. Tony and King are like, hey, you're going to play this game. I'm like, okay, cool. Great. Sit down.
That's everyone's interpretation of Sarah. Oh, great.
Sit down, play this fucking game, and then
Eeyore, like, that also drinks beer.
That also drinks beer. See, you get it. Yeah, and it was just very good and has been very good ever since. And we're going to make a character in Triangle Agency. Caleb, I can't remember if I covered off on this, but the intent of this is we kind of make an idealized version of yourself, but we don't have to do that. If we want to be cat girls, let's be cat girls. But like either way, that way it just kind of helps us explore a little bit more.
No, I love that. I'm very curious to see how that goes because we are making a game in a modern setting. So if we can make me, then
and I think this system lends itself like so well to that sort of like you have your regular life and you have your anomaly life, and I'm just very excited to see how it all plays out. So I would say let's jump into it.
Okay.
We have a super cool character sheet. Fill outable form. I don't know. Words are hard sometimes. That Keegan can share for everybody to observe with their eyes once.
Yeah, and I want to say specifically the one we're using is by Deidre Sky on Itch. This was made by someone in our online and Discord community who made this really, really incredible tool that is much better than any digital character sheet we have made. And I want to make sure that if you get the chance to check it out, you can find it on Itch. If you search Triangle Agency right now, on Itch, there's like 4 things, and this is one of them. So definitely recommend it.
Nice. So let's start at the beginning. We've got name, pronouns, all of this stuff. We can run through that really quickly.
Yeah. So my name is Caleb, as we know, and my pronouns are he, him. This coffee place is about the way that your character takes their coffee or likes to have coffee, and I think if I'm most honest, it is like the most boring version ever. It is coffee with a very roughly estimated amount of cream in it and no sugar at all. But just a little bit of cream. Because I used to drink coffee black, and one of my friends told me that ruins your stomach in particular ways. So I started adding just a little bit of milk because I got scared.
So it'll ruin it a little bit less.
Right. Well, that's what saves it.
Different way.
Well, the milk, it's like a little vaccine. You're inoculating your tummy against the rest of the coffee. And I am embarrassed to admit that is 100% true.
I love it. Here's the thing, Caleb, listen, here's my coffee fear. So my boyfriend, who's like really into he just knows things. Apparently when coffee is too hot, it actually has like carcinogenic properties, and you shouldn't drink your coffee super hot. So now I can't like drink like super hot coffee without being like, I'm poisoning myself, I'm going to die. So I get it, buddy.
Yeah. Yes. It is the job of a boyfriend to know things many times, but sometimes the knowledge that they hold is dangerous.
It's dangerous and shouldn't be shared, and will ruin my hot cup of coffee for the rest of forever. Because some days I'm just like, you know what? This is it.
So glad to be an iced coffee drinker during this conversation. Like black iced coffee with some sugar. We're good.
We're set.
I don't know. It's still black coffee, and you never know.
If I put milk in it, I'm done. It's over for me.
There's nothing left.
Day ruined.
Day ruined. Yeah, no, it's over. We're not doing that.
We're not. Next we have appearance.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. Caleb,
I think
in 5 words, describe your sense of style.
Gosh. Purchases one shirt every 2 years and wears them until they are completely destroyed.
I love that. I think that's fantastic.
I used to be a lot more like interested in like specific style and clothes and mixing it up a lot. I was just talking about this lately. I think the only thing about my style that's consistent is that my hair is very different and overly complex as often as it can be. And then but in terms of actual clothes, I hate buying them so much that I just sort of wait it out. And ever since the like pandemic hit and I started spending all my time inside, all I need is shirts, right? That's all I really need to look good.
Yeah. And even then, like the pandemic slowed my purchasing habits in a big way. Like I don't think I bought clothes for like 2 years because I was just like, what's the point of it? Like I don't get it.
Every time I see a t-shirt now that I kind of like, I make myself go ahead and buy it so that I just have a t-shirt.
Because without it, you're just like slowly diminishing the inventory.
Today, I was thinking like, all right, I've been on +1 like 4 times, and I have to make sure, I have to like go through and make sure that I don't accidentally wear one of the shirts I've already worn because it's a limited pool.
This is amazing.
Me for a very long time, and now I'm like, oh, I'm on +1 all the time. I don't actually have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah, I gave up on it. I gave up. There was a period of time where I was like, oh, well, I should go back and make sure that I'm not wearing the exact same outfit as like another interview. And now,
nope.
I can't be bothered.
11, it's over for us.
We've gone through the full cycle. This is it.
Yeah. Every time I hear about celebrities who like, you know, have to think about not wearing the same thing to any event ever in case more photographs are taken, I find that to be like a terrifying, like, prospect.
That's a lot of anxiety. Yeah.
If I wear a new thing, I'm like uncomfortable that whole time until I've gotten used to it. So I'm like, what? How do they do that?
You don't get like the new, like, because this is one thing that I resent as an adult, that it's hard to capture. Because when you're a kid and you have like new school clothes, you know what I mean? Like, first day of school, got my new kicks. Like, I'm super cool. As an adult, I just don't feel like there's that equivalency anymore. And I think that takes some of the fun away from it. Like, they're all just clothes that you bought with your own money. And now you have to think about that, how much money you spent on it. And that's it. And there's nobody, like, look at my cool backpack.
And nobody except for your cancer-obsessed boyfriend will ever notice if it's brand new. It's like
exactly.
Everyone else is just like, oh, another.
I love it.
It made me think of how the closest thing I have to that feeling is that I used to do so much theater. And I used to be so excited for like costume day because that does give you that feeling of like, oh, I'm in another person now. Like I'm wearing this whole different clothing. But in that case, the like discomfort of it is part of it. That's what helps you get into it a little bit, is you're like, I can feel all the places of friction between me and this other person. But in real life, I'm like, no, I'm already anxious enough when I go to a party. I need to be wearing my favorite sweater.
Yeah, if there is a tag and it is irritating me, I'm not going. Like, we're done. We're staying inside until me and this tag work through our stuff.
This is so relatable for me. I'm like, these shoes give me blisters, but they're fashion. It was me wearing. I wore platforms for an entire day at PAX.
You did.
That rules.
I had
you're
so
so
many
short
when I went home, Sarah. You don't even know.
Oh gosh. See, and I do that thing where I'm like, is this gonna cause me discomfort? I'll do like a risk analysis and I'll be like, yeah, but is it? I'm with you, Keegan. I'll do the like, but it looks super cute. But I always have a plan B. Like there's always an extra outfit in a bag somewhere so I can nope out of that choice that like earlier Sarah made. Because if there's one thing I can count on earlier Sarah for, is that she's gonna fuck it up. So we're gonna sabotage.
My last time I did something like that, like really wore the shoes that would kill me, was when I did a Sailor Moon cosplay at Dragon Con, which is all hills. I don't know if you've ever been to Atlanta or been to Dragon Con, but it is all hills. And I was wearing these like 3.5, 4-inch heels on these like thigh-high black boots. And I, at the end of that day, was like, this is the most pain I've ever been inflicted upon by clothing. And I never want to do this again.
Yeah, no way. No way, no how. I'm gonna move us manifestation. Let's talk a little bit about what this means.
Yeah, this will be harder for us to do until we pick an anomaly, because it's kind of like, how does your power sort of like manifest visually in the game, or how, if it ever does, what are some ways your power has sort of affected the way that you appear or look. So I don't know if we'll be able to do that until we've
I was gonna say the rest of these, I think maybe we'll kind of circle back a little bit, because this is where we start getting into the actual making of the choices, which is very good. So let's go ahead and start. Caleb, whisk us away on a character creation journey.
Yeah, just to talk about how the character creation works. On Triangle Agency, in this game, you are picking 3 pieces from 9 options in each category. So we have Anomaly, which is kind of your power set. It is the abilities that you have that alter reality in different ways, and that in so many words, I guess, shouldn't exist. Then there's your reality, which is your real life and your obligations and kind of your bit, your like character bit that will come up the most often. And then your competency, which is the job assigned to you by the agency, which could be chosen because you line up with it really well, or could be chosen because it's a specific challenge for your character. Because what that affects is your role playing. The competency does. It kind of tells you what kinds of role playing you want to do or want to be challenged around. And when we get to those, we can talk about them in detail. But they're definitely going to be the weirdest one to try to map onto me, I think, because it'll be like, what do we want that to be? I'm excited to see how we handle that. But yeah, so they're kind of in order. In an order that we like, which is the powers are typically first because they're the thing that we think players of role-playing games are going to want to imagine the most and like want to have most precisely, because that's the cool part of like, I want to be able to do this stuff all the time. So that's why that's up first. But we can really do them in any order.
I say let's stick to the order, because the anomalies are very cool. I like them a lot.
Thank you. So the anomalies specifically, each of them has 3 powers attached to them, and they're sort of lightly sorted into 3 categories. There's the first 3, which I tend to refer to as the rules. They're about like manipulating the way that the universe works in specific ways. We've got space, time, and decoration. And then the second set is the fears, which are gun, absence, and drain. They're all based around pretty common human fears. And then the next 3 are the bodies, which are 3 things that are related specifically to human bodies, which are whisper, grow, and dream. Dream being the weirdest one to put into human bodies, but it's about human experience and sleep. So anomalies in this game are the way that an anomaly works in Triangle Agency is that it is a concentrated idea or obsession that is able to then manifest itself as a physical power or presence, sometimes a monster. And so all of these are based on things that would come up a lot in the human psyche, no matter what.
Gotcha. Oh, very cool. Which one would you pick for this exercise?
I didn't know I was gonna have to pick. Which one are you giving me?
No way, buddy. We're building your character.
Okay. So the idea is something that we think applies kind of closely to me. I think there are two that come to mind because they were 2 that were extremely fun to write and easy to write in a particular way because they were kind of in my personal character fantasy wheelhouse. And those are Whisper and Drain.
Okay.
Whisper's the one that's a little obvious because it's all about words, and that's like my whole thing is talking too much and writing books. So Whisper seems like a good one from that direction. But Drain is like, I guess I would say Drain is more closely related to my insecurities than Whisper is.
Ooh.
Whisper is like a power. It's like an exciting thing for me to think about having power over, the ability for my words to then be also strong. And Drain is more like if I were to actually be given a power based on my own like obsessions or worries, I think Drain is the one that I would get, because Drain is about, something being taken away gradually, sometimes when you don't even know it's happening so slowly, or something being pulled away from you and given to something else. And I think something I think a lot about and try very hard to work on as a person is making sure that everything I do or everything I ask for from people is getting returned by me. And I've spent a lot of time looking back on my history as a young person and like my time as a youth where that was not the case, and where I think of myself in many ways in high school or college as somebody who I would not personally want to hang out with at this point, and who I would maybe consider a drain in some particular ways. That it is a pretty common focus of mine. So I don't know, one of those 2.
I feel like you're going
depending
on
the
idealized version of yourself. We don't go with this is my insecurity, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. I will say though, Drain. So I played Riker was the Drain character, right? And full disclosure, Keegan made my character. I just put a face on it. But when Keegan was like, here's the choices that I made, it's so funny because I read Drain and I was like, oh man, this is woof. Because even like the first sentence, Drain anomalies are born from desire, decay, and loss. And I was like, how am I supposed to be a weird little dude? Like coming at it from this angle. But what I loved about it was like there is that depth and complexity of like how you choose to play. Absolutely, you can be the like the teenage kid that just like needs and just takes, or like the deadbeat or whatever. But the way that these are written is so flexible. You can take it in so many different and interesting ways, right? Like what drained means, it's not like, it's very easy, I think, to fall into that sort of emotional capacity, but there's so many other ways to like take that. And I love the way this game is written because you can explore that. You're not just stuck in the like the of it.
The drain is a scary one, but I think what you're talking about and the thing that made it so good for you specifically to play, I think, is that to be a drain well, you also have to really engage with understanding the things that you're draining from. Like borrow is as a skill, which allows you to take something from someone in this very broad way, is more powerful for you as a player if you are someone who is able to look at something creatively and understand what it's doing and what it is.
Right.
And so, we try to give everything a couple sides for sure. But
I loved it.
But yeah, if you want me to be like as empowered as I would dream of being, I think Whisper is the angle for me.
Let's do it.
And that one is about words themselves being extremely powerful and the ability for your voice to carry with it a kind of gravitas and weight. One of our touch points for this were the old Preacher comics. I don't know if y'all know those, but those are
unfamiliar.
That comic series is about this character who has this ability that is referred to in the books as the word of guide, which basically means if they give a command, it has to happen. And they're the main character, which is, it's a very big power to give your main character. But it creates a really interesting story. And that was like definitely top of mind with that one. And I like that comic, and I think that power would be very cool to have. Scary to have, but cool to have.
It's scary, but cool. I think that I think in games, like there's this kind of hesitation to like not give players big powers, right? Like you're a folks person that was like the town hero because you like saved them from the cow, and now you're going on an adventure and you have like a pot lid as a shield and a soup ladle as your sword. Like that's what you're doing, versus like giving these really like big impactful things. I think that's what we want to do, right? Like, listen, man, I'm already that dude at home. I don't need like give me the things. I want to be able to do cool stuff, and games that like do that and open that, especially from a role-playing perspective, it makes it more meaningful, I think, because now you're grappling with bigger ideas than just let's go get some potatoes so we don't starve. Like, I don't know. I mean, that's a really bad example, but I feel like the principle is there.
Every first role-playing mission, let's go get some potatoes.
Yeah,
so we don't starve.
You have a pot.
I got a soup later. I got a
100%. Keegan's call me out. I've been playing.
I am Fire Emblem Donald.
Yes. Poor Donald. His little pot lid.
Oh man, alive. Keegan gets it though. I'm 100% Tears of the Kingdom brain right now, so I apologize in advance.
And then you.
I really appreciate you saying that.
So you don't starve.
Cooking in that game. I know some people love it. I hate it so much. So many steps.
It takes way too long to cook my entire inventory.
Here's my thing. I don't know what all the recipes are, and it stresses me out that I'll never know what all the recipes are, and I don't like it. Like I just discovered a new kind of snail on one of the islands, and I was like, the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Like, shit. Like, escargot? Are you kidding me? What's happening? And then I just got stressed. And I was like, we're not going to worry about it.
That what you just said is so funny to me because I feel like such a baby every time there's like an announcement for a sequel to a game and they go like, and here are new mechanics. My first thought is always fear.
No.
Like, what if I'm terrible at it? What if I'm terrible at this new mechanic? And I have that same response. You find a new snail, you unlock a new set of skills, and you're like, ugh, I'll never understand these.
Legitimately, every time I sit down and I hold the control, I'm like, there's too many buttons. I'm never pressing the right button to do the thing that I want to do. And I'm stressed. But it's fine because we're gonna find some Koroks. It's gonna be great. We've decided on Whisper, which is pretty cool and neat and great. We've got some abilities. I would like to talk through them if we have the time and energy to do so.
Let's do it.
Or at least like which of the three is your favorite, like a bare minimum.
Yes. Yeah. So the three we have are Say Again, Tip of the Tongue, and Silence. Say Again is a kind of skill that every like anomaly has at start, which is that we wanted to play with this idea that you could trigger your abilities through actually having to say catchphrases out loud. It's turned out to be great, and I 100% love it, and we're definitely keeping it. But this one, Say Again, is in response to someone saying something. You can say again, and then you as a player can tell the person who spoke to you what they actually said instead. And if you succeed, they believe that the new sentence is what they meant, and they do repeat themselves with that new phrase. And on a trisendence, which is our like critical success, where you get 3 3s on your roll, you get to then basically throw your voice for them anytime in the next hour and like have them say whatever you want. And on a failure, as we saw happen to Keegan during the +3 EXP series, you are limited for the next 3 hours to only speak using the words that you tried to get them to say.
That was so rough. Let me just say again, that was such a rough sentence.
So fun though. So fun though.
It was. I was glad because we got to do the bit for a little while and then free you up. But the failure states, it's worth mentioning, like the reason they're like this in Triangle Agency is because it's actually pretty hard to fail in this game. Like it's not a super common thing. And so anytime they happen, we want those failures to completely reshape the way the rest of your mission goes. Because if they don't, then the failure you get is going to be kind of boring, and they're rare enough that it's like missing an opportunity. So we want them to be like that. Like what happened to you is like, oh, this has to be my whole deal now for a while.
Yeah. Go for it, Keegan.
I just can't remember what the sentence I had was now.
It was no publishing.
No publishing.
That's what it was. And I was dying. I was like, it wasn't production. No publishing.
Yeah.
And like, I love it. And again, like, I think that this is part of what I really enjoy about the game is players, even though it's hard to fail, you're always like kind of on the back foot. Like you're always kind of like having to move and make creative decisions. Like there, at no point did you feel very safe and very like fun, but like there's this like element of like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And so even when like it's almost like the rebound effect of like your ridiculous choices coming back to you and being like, you did this. Like I love that because it like it with it's high risk, high reward. Like I'm gonna do some buck wild shit. It did not go well. And now I have no one to blame but myself. And like that sort of like give and take of like wanting to take the risk and like having to manage like the consequences of your own actions, I don't think you get in other games so directly. And in such a way that like is fun. Like I don't feel punished. I never felt punished by my failures. There was some level of like, okay, well, Sarah, you made that choice, but it wasn't like being beat over the head with it or like, and now you're gonna die and everything's gonna be ruined. Like it was just, no, you made a silly choice, and here's a silly goof that you now have to like add into your list of like complications and loose ends. So good luck and Godspeed. I was like, okay, like it's very good.
I really appreciate that. One of our most important things in this game is, if you're ever going to feel punished, we want that feeling to have a target. Like if you are going to have been punished by something, we want you to know who's punishing you in fiction and like understand how it works. There's a feature that's not in the Delta test that is in the game that's literally called punishments. And it is a like long-term campaign level consequence from the agency for your behavior. And some of those are very nasty, can be very nasty and very scary. but we want to make sure that the players always know that it's coming from a place in the world and that it's something you can respond to and react to, not the kind of feeling of punishment you get from a game system that is designed to make you feel bad because that is the alternative to making you feel good, right? That is like that's what they're trying to hit, and that's not always useful. Sometimes it is, but in our game, we want feeling bad to always be something that propels you into making some more choices.
I love it. The next power is a tip of the tongue.
Yes.
Which is very good.
This one's my favorite, I think. So tip of the tongue lets you open your mind to the thoughts of someone nearby. You let their words reach your voice and roll empathy. On a success, you say what the target wishes they were saying right now. And then on every third three, you can ask them a question about something currently relevant. And on a failure, you admit something that you don't want anyone to know. This one, I love so much for a couple of reasons. One of those reasons is this is the closest thing we have to like a telepathy power, like a direct telepathy power in this game. We talked a little bit early on about whether we wanted a class that was sort of telepath related, but because that power set in other fiction is so broad, we wanted to make sure that it was kind of spread out among the like different types in this game. And tip of the tongue for me, the opposite ventriloquism here, the fact that what you're doing is turning yourself into the speaker for someone else's thoughts, and you have to say them out loud, and they have to hear you say what they're thinking. There's so many pieces of friction there that are really interesting to me. I'm like actually talking about it, and this feels silly because I wrote it, but like getting a little bit of chills. Sean and I are always looking for that feeling whenever we're writing these. Whenever Sean and I are writing skills, we're always like, can we give the other person chills when they sit down to think about this happening to them?
Yeah.
But this gets to, we talked about insecurity and drain, but it's here too, because that's what all these skills are about. We're trying to tap into horror. This gets to like how dangerous it is to be able to know what someone's thinking while they're looking and talking to you. Like how scary that is, but also how much of a wish that is a million times a day to day, even when it would be bad for that wish to be carried out.
100%. Well, and I think too, like even that, like the words having power and being said out loud is like what shapes reality. And like when you make a conscious choice to not say those words out loud, you know what I mean? And then have to watch as reality is like being shifted just because you thought them, like, you know what I mean? Like that's like, oh, like that gives me like so many parties would be ruined by this. Just like it's that idea you're lending, like the whole point of the whisper class is that words have power, and this one to me is like absolutely they do, like because this changes everything, right? In any given moment, like it's revealing of a truth, right? Whether someone likes it or not. And I think that's great.
Well, I think what's scariest about it for me is that like we all know that like a lot of people are thinking things or wishing they were saying something that they don't actually want to really say, like something that they don't actually really want to say out loud for whatever reason, because they don't want to hurt the person or whatever. And it's so scary to have somebody in your party who could just blow that up at any time.
Right.
My job could say, "Hey, Keegan doesn't want to be here. I can tell." And that'd be bad. That'd be really bad for me.
It would be bad, and it doesn't matter how good you are at getting in the way of your own thoughts. This ability like skips that for you. And there's so many times in my life where I've had to then, over the course of days or weeks or years, go look back at something I thought and be like, okay, that's not actually what I meant to think or what I believe. But having that shortcut and made solid, very scary, very cool. So I think that's my favorite one of these.
It's very cool. And the last one is silence.
Yes, this is the most like tool that this is our way of playing with the idea that even though you only have words, you can still be like acting in this kind of sneaky investigation way. And so silence is about your ability to make a sound that adjusts frequency to cancel out the sounds you make or the sounds of things around you. And so on a success, none of your actions make a sound, and for every 3 you get above it, you can silence the actions of another target, making potentially your whole group completely silent. And on a failure, it does the opposite, where you accidentally make every sound you're going to make for the next hour very loud, like cartoon sound effect Foley loud. And because exactly the time you would want to use this skill is when that would be very bad, is why that's a fun one in this case, I think.
It's so good because it just, all of the failures like give you a new set of problems to like solve, of like, okay, great. Your initial approach didn't work. Here's a totally, now the whole thing has shifted on its head. And you have, just like, even as I'm thinking that, like okay, great, let's be so loud that sound doesn't have meaning anymore. Like, it's just like, you have to problem solve and lean into the failure. And I love that.
I'm glad, Sarah, you had this thought, because my first thought was, I know I'd be like my character farts just immediately.
Yeah, 100%. It would just be like, I love the image of like, we're being so quiet, and then all of a sudden like everything you do is like that makes the microphones rebound loud sort of a deal, and then it's just make as much sound as you can. Because either way, like it's one or the other. There is no in between.
Yeah, and I love looking at these three failure states next to each other, because what we have is like, we have one that could maybe not get in your way as in the investigation, but as a player is extremely annoying. We have one that forces your character to be vulnerable in a way that they normally wouldn't. And then we have one that is like, and now the whole party has their investigation disrupted and ruined. And so it's very fun that the same player, depending on which kind of failure you get and what you're doing in the session, it leans into those different problems. I'm super proud of those.
I love it. So from here, we've got our anomaly. From here, we move to our reality. Correct?
Yes. Yeah. And this is going to be interesting. Because we have to decide how to sum up my life, right?
What's your life in one little third of a class?
Correct.
Yeah. There are a couple of these that are hard to actually be mundane, because of the ones that we give as opportunities for people who don't want to play a mundane human. And those, starting from the very end, are creature and newborn. Pursued also a little bit, but creature and newborn are both kind of by necessity non-human. They are people who are whether they're like vampires or Martians or robots, they're people who are not human. So as much as I might want to be them in the game, I think they're not as likely to be me in real life.
Caleb is definitely a creature.
I am. I hunger for Digimon. The newborn is probably the closest to what I would say is like that. That's like, I am always talking about and wanting to play robot characters, and the newborn is all about like the bit being they have no idea what's going on in their life. So that's a clear one. But then the others, we start to get into some more realistic character types. Pursued is someone who is fleeing from a crime, and I wouldn't admit to that on this stream, so it's not that. That's not me.
Yep.
Star is someone who's very, very famous, which I unfortunately am not yet, and hopefully will never be. And then Backbone is someone who is in charge of an organization or a group, and is kind of the person holding it together, and is in our game, the way that like tension is portrayed is that you're always a little bit under threat of being replaced by the next person in your organization who would want to take it over from you. Romantic is the person who Teen Girl Squad has a crush on every boy or whoever. And then Caretaker has something in particular that they're having to watch over all the time, like a baby or an animal. Struggling is someone who is broke and who is trying very hard to make some headway on their debts. And Overbooked is someone who has multiple jobs and are so committed to them that they can't let either of them go, and it is sort of pulling them apart. Each of them is sort of defined most by their current challenge, their current biggest thing in their way. And it's hard looking at these to pick one for me. Almost all of them require me to be vulnerable. And explaining why they would be me. So I'll start by saying what I think is fun about these is that, especially the mundane ones, I think everybody is one of these at some point in their lives, or is multiple of these at some point in their lives. Because what we've done in order to make it a role-playing game with a character having a specific thing is narrowed them down to one struggle, but a lot of these are just things that happen to you at different times. Like, I think there is a time in my life where I would be romantic because that was the only thing I was worried about was how many boys were answering my app messages. But but now I'm feeling called to Backbone, or to Overbooked. But I think Backbone is maybe a little more appropriate at this second, even though it sounds a little self-aggrandizing. Like, my whole last year has been about trying to build up Haunted Table and Triangle Agency and set it up so that it can be a place that makes money and helps boost the reputations and lives of a bunch of people. And I do, at this exact second, because we are nearing the end of this Kickstarter, feel a lot of pressure about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the one that I'm leaning towards right now.
No, that makes sense.
It totally does. One thing I want to read some of this. I know Keegan's sharing it, but the Backbone leads an independent group in town, be it a corporation, charitable organization, family, or chess club. They are the group's figurehead, its judge, its moral center. They can call on their organization's collective resources and network, but they are also directly needed for every single bit of drama that flares up. And like, it's just delightful. Like, even as you're reading through it, you have like 50 different ways that like this can be, you know what I mean? And like, moral center, yike-do, that's heavy. But like, I'm playing in Triangle Agency, that's also going to be so silly and so like ridiculous that like it's very good.
Some examples of this that we've had in play: we've had people playing the head of a robotics club. We've had people who were the head of like a like regular art, like bridge group, who was using it as kind of like a grift. There have been like tons of different ways to interpret it, and it has been so fun. It's such a fun one to play because it means that your GM can contact you at any time with a very small problem, but that must take precedence over what's happening.
It needs to be fixed right now.
Yeah, it's similar to the Overbooked in that way. Yeah.
And from that, we get a couple of features from our reality. So we've got constituents and long after I'm gone.
Yes, and these are changing a little bit because we've talked about this before, but the free quality assurance of long after I'm gone is being swapped out for something called a burnout release, which is your ability to do something that is like a little bit socially or roleplay challenging for your character, but that gives you enough like confidence and comfort and relaxation that it boosts your next time a roll would go bad. It literally cancels burnout is the idea. And for this one, instead of long after I'm gone, there is a skill about like putting something off on somebody else or using your organization just to boost you, like specifically just to boost your ego or to benefit you in a like kind of lightly corrupt way. And that is the thing that can cancel burnout for you, but can cause trouble for you long term.
And then the constituents where it's just GM can spend chaos and one of your constituents just needs something.
Yes. It's definitely one of the most flexible and like easy for a GM to use ones. And because that it's so easy for the GM to manipulate you in this way without having to think super hard about how to do it, it's also one of the more like helpful ones because you've got this set of people who all have a specialty that will listen to you if you need help on a mission and will help you out if they can.
The segue for me here, like, you know, obviously you're going through the Kickstarter. This is your first Kickstarter, correct? Or am I mistaken there?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So it's a new thing. It's a lot of coordinating across, you know, different writers, designers, editors, all of that stuff. And you've been pretty open about sharing your experience, like on Twitter and stuff, talking through like lots of lessons learned here. From the like scope of leading like a Kickstarter and being in that chair. What would you say were like the most important skill sets you brought in, Caleb the person, that made it so you could be successful there?
Yeah, I have the first one I want to say, but I guess I want to preface it by saying that I don't know that it's healthy. So I'm like, I don't know that this is a piece of advice. It is just the truth. It is that like I up to now don't have a lot of problem or have not had a lot of problem being like 24/7 like jacked in and online and working. And so like a huge part of the reason why I'm all over this project and why like I ended up taking on lead designer, you know, versus Sean, who's been here from the beginning but is not technically lead designer, is just because it became my whole life for like the last year. I'm very lucky to be able to do that in a lot of ways because I am doing other work, but it is work that's very flexible, and so I'm able to like drop it if I need to go do other stuff. I'm not super, because I'm writing or I'm GMing, I'm not super beholden to other people's schedules. So I'm able to do that, but probably the number one thing that I brought was my ability to be always 100% available to everybody at all times. I'm learning right now that I'm like hitting the end of what turns out is my endurance for that specifically.
Yeah.
But that is because up to now, that vulnerability and that availability has been 100% with people who I knew I could completely trust. People who are not like taking advantage of that. And that's not true that nobody's taking advantage of it now, but now all of a sudden that scope changes. You've got all these people looking at it. We've got, you know, over 3,000 people now in the Kickstarter. And when you realize like, oh, I can't, as much as I want to be, I can't be there for every single one of these people 24 hours a day. And even our own team, as our team grows, we now have like, I don't know the exact number right now, but we have like 35 people all involved in some way in the campaign. And that's not counting the people who have been like you guys who have been helping me with stuff like these streams. It's not counting people who are running actual plays weekly to like both help us and to support the game and that I want to be watching all the time. And when you look at that list of people and you're like, oh, there's 50 people who all need something from me a little bit and could at any time. That's a very
that's a big list.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, buddy.
but the thing that's been helping and the thing that I'm learning, thankfully, is like how to balance that level of like availability and that the, to be honest, the perfectionism and like maybe like too much desire for a precision in the way everything is done that causes that to be the way that I approach it, with like being able to pass things off. Like we have Ryan Kingdom, who's being art director. We have Sean, who has taken on a lot of the work involved in actually keeping the business like running and making sure we're doing all the things you have to do to not like lose thousands of dollars for zero reason. And then like we've got now, because of how successful we've got Ben Mansky, who's going to be doing the layout on the book. We have Will Jopes coming in to edit the extra missions. And a lot of this stuff is stuff that we all, until now, we're all like, well, Caleb will just figure it out. Caleb will find the magic time to get it done because that's what I've done up to now. And it's just not going to be possible forever.
Right.
So sorry, that went very long because it's the first time I've really gotten to talk about
No, that's
Caleb,
that's
that's
my
the
thing.
format of the show.
Thank you.
You're doing it really well. I'm really proud of you.
Thank you.
And I will say on that very like big discussion, I am going to say that we head for a break because we're just about an hour. We can refill our waters, chat, come hang out with us because we still have the back half of the interview, but go stretch your legs, drink some water. No, coffee doesn't count. Just drink water for the sake of water. And we'll see you guys in like 5 minutes.
Yep. You can put water in your coffee to make sure it doesn't hurt your tummy.
There you go. And it's not too hot.
And it doesn't give you cancer. Hey, we're live. And my mic, I watched the levels jump this time, so I know I'm actually live.
Awesome. So we went on a break. We did our things. It's pretty great. Where we left off, we had chosen an anomaly. We had chosen a reality. And now we're choosing a competency, which I'm jazzed about because this is where it gets real weird.
Yeah. So the competency is what the agency assigns you as your job. And what this does for you as a player is it provides you with kind of a challenge. Each one of the competencies has a thing called a prime directive, which is a thing you're not allowed to do or you receive demerits. We tried to make these so that when you're picking your character, because your competency doesn't really change necessarily a lot about who your character is, this is like a very flexible zone to pick from, and you can pick more based on how much you want this to come into play for you. For example, the one I point out all the time when I'm like, this is going to come into play all the time while you're tabletop role playing in this game, is the public relations one, which is about not being allowed to lie. That one is like a big challenge. And is going to be a big challenge every session, no matter what. And then there are some other ones that are like a little more like dependent on how you're like what your GM is pointing out or how you play. The opposite of it for me in terms of like easy is reception, which is that your character can't sit down. That is a role play only thing that does come up and will come up in terms of like, what are you doing in a car? Or like, how are you going to use that bicycle to get around? It comes up way more than you expect it will, but it's also pretty easy to avoid. And the way that you avoid it is through role play, and it creates like a tiny, silly moment, but isn't as much of a challenge as some of the other ones are. They're intended to be that way. They're not really balanced to all be the same. They're balanced so that whoever at the table is most comfortable with one of them or thinks one of them will be a more fun challenge to work around, they can pick. We have those split into a couple of types as well. We call them full-time, part-time, and night shift. The full-time ones are R&D, which must always do things differently and cannot do the same thing twice. Public relations, which we just said can't lie. And CEO, which is not allowed to take an order. Sarah got to play CEO, and I think it was most fun. Oh, you go ahead. Go.
No, that one was so hard. Like that one was difficult because like oftentimes like I think not like from the character it added this very fun element because I was playing the drain, I was playing the caretaker that wouldn't take orders, and it became this very like I'm just kind of like a burnout loser and people are telling me what to do, but I'm not really gonna do it. Like it just this kind of willful I will make my own way even if my own way is nowhere. But Sarah the person, like I love like collaborating and stuff, and so like, is that an order, was that a suggestion? And like I'm very like, oh no, this is the thing that makes sense, like we should do that. But because someone else said it,
now I have to say no.
And like unless I am willing to take a demerit, right? And that was such a like, again, this layered approach to like giving me a real flaw, something I really struggled with, and how to still like get to the goal, right? Because I could have just drowned it in demerits. I could just be a really bad CEO and just like let him, and like that's a choice you can make. But it also
public relations, that's what we did, was I lied even when I didn't need to. Just constantly. I was gaslighting, I was gatekeeping, I was girl bossing.
So hard. It was like very good though. And I think what I loved about this and what I didn't see initially setting out was there's the time when Riker said, just tell me what you want me to do. And like handing, like knowing that this was going to be detrimental in like a mechanical way, and like how impactful that was from an RP perspective. I loved it. And being able to have that mechanically captured in the way my character was built, right? Like by doing his job, just this one little thing, like this teeny tiny, like he was doing the thing, but this one thing means that he's like getting that demerit, but you could have done better, sort of a thing. And it just like the power of that was like, I will think about that forever. I loved that. That's a RPG, TTRPG like highlight for me, was that.
Me too,
tell me what you want me to do, Ruby.
When I realized you were going to do that, that was another one of those chills. Like that was an amazing roleplay moment from you. And the competencies I'm so proud of, because I think they are like, if I was to point at something in our game and be like, this is one of the biggest like innovations that we've done versus other stuff that's happening right now, I think the competencies are it. And some of that is very weird, and some of it I don't know how successful it is in every case, but the ability to be picking early on something that represents like your personal player table role a little bit. And for me, what the competencies really do is they shortcut us to a feeling that is what the game is about, which is the struggle of attempting to please your work responsibilities while also like pleasing the other responsibilities in your life and who you want to be, by making it like seem like this very abstract, silly thing. We're able to get the players feeling that way, sometimes even more than the characters do. So that like if you can't lie, you're like, this is so annoying. Like, why can I not, like, why am I not allowed to lie? Why do I keep getting these little tiny punishments for lying when I'm playing a game that's about lying? Like, why is that here? And that's to me how it feels to have like a shitty big corporate job, is you're just handed these rules and ways you're supposed to behave that are often counter to what makes any sense. And I'm so proud of how we've been able to capture that feeling in such a little constant way.
It's not, the other thing I'll add too is I love like the competency wars of like knowing what your other players like can't do and like intentionally like getting at like what was Keegan, yours was you can't talk about your feelings.
I can't talk about something my feelings.
Like every time you talk about your feelings you get a demerit, which was like wonderful because it was this constant. And how do you feel about that, Keegan? Like it's just this like quick little turn to immediately put you in like at odds with like what you're trying to accomplish, who you are as a person, and like do it successfully on this metric that like is impossible to meet.
It feels like it was not designed to be PvP on some level, but every time we've played it, it's been like, hey Sarah, can you do this for me? And you're like, fuck you, I was gonna do that anyway.
You know I was gonna do it anyways.
Y'all, I think Keegan, you are, of everybody that I've playtested with, the one who has most effectively brought out the PvP side of the competencies.
That's just my personality, babe.
But I want to say it's not that it's not designed that way. It is intended as a way to interface with the system, and it will depend on the way that your group has fun playing. And part of that is because we tried to build around the ways people already play role-playing games, like the ways that they are already engaging with each other and the ways that they're already trying to get in each other's way or trying to seem really cool or whatever. We wanted to give those paths to that. That all still, the big trick we're trying to pull is that all of those behaviors all loop back into the system. So everything you're already doing with your table, there's a place where the game has forced that behavior to also be part of it. And that is like the most fun thing to design, and also like the thing that I find most fun when I'm role playing and when I'm running the game, is like getting to watch people have that revelation that like everything I normally do at a table, this game has like tried to build around. And the competencies are our biggest one of that. If we're picking one for me, this is the same thing where it's like I've got my front facing one maybe, and then my like challenge one. I think honestly the one that I would have the easiest time with is public relations. There's a couple reasons for this. One of them is that I have a degree in public relations. I went to school for this. And part of something I found very funny about PR early on is that I've heard from a lot of people who read it and they see like, this says you are rewarded for giving a good excuse, but you're punished for lying. That's impossible. Like, how are those things different? And I'm like, you have never learned about PR, because that is exactly what it is. It's about figuring out the way to present the truth in a way that is itself biased. That's what PR work is about, and it's why I refused to do it, and why as soon as I got the degree, I put it in the trash. It is about like managing the reputation of a place by manipulating the truth and not lying, but by making people feel a certain way about the truth. And there are ways to do that aren't evil. It's called art, but there are lots of ways to do that are evil. And I think PR would probably be the one that's most straightforwardly easy for me. The one that I would like to be good at and that I really love is Hotline. The public relations and Hotline, I think, are my two strong ones, in the same way that Whisper and Drain are, in that when I was working on them, they had the strongest connection to me and the strongest like the most powerful like writing for me, or like thoughts around them. I'm missing the words, but Hotline is the closest thing we have to, I guess, what another game might call a healer. This is somebody who is not allowed to deliver bad news. and you will receive commendations if you help someone unburden themselves, if you take the blame, or you connect someone to an unexpected fate. It is, we have pseudo-jokingly referred to it as a support class, because that is like what it is. It is the one of these that actually does kind of want you to be empathetic with people and like caring about them in a particular way. Those two are definitely there's the one that I think I really actually would be best at, which is PR, and then the one that I wish I was best at, which is Hotline.
Listen, here at Character Study, we're all about making dreams come true. And I also think the combination of Backbone and Hotline is wild.
Yeah, no, that's really good.
Crazy. Like, because like as the Backbone, you're having to acquiesce to every whim, problem, whatever. And this just kind of takes that and builds it into a strength, right?
Yes. It actually also kind of forces you to take everybody in your organization seriously as people, because you're supposed to listen to them and take the blame for things going wrong, and it puts you in kind of a bad spot sometimes, because you cannot tell them the truth if something bad is happening, and if something bad happens that your organization has done, you are supposed to take the blame for it every single time.
Right.
So yeah, a good leader in some ways and bad in others, but are hopefully putting other people before yourself. So I do like that. I think that's it feels good.
I think
it's a good combination.
An interesting thought here about how different that class is with like Hotline versus CEO versus PR, like really change the vibe of that reality.
I think, yeah. And some others, just so we talk about them, because we haven't mentioned them. Some others in here that are great. Clown was the one we talked about, where you can't talk about your own feelings. That's based on like the clown and theatrical performance sense, where like your job as a performer, and like our job when we're performing for you and APs and stuff, is often for you to feel rather than for us to feel in certain ways, or at least that's what some theatrical schools will tell you. Gravedigger does not allow you to touch things that are living, but rewards you for doing some pretty typical investigation stuff, digging up dirt, cleaning up messes. The barista doesn't let you say anybody's real name, which basically means you have to give nicknames to everybody you know. It's another one of the more like fun ones, but has a similar effect to Clown, where it can make it difficult for your character to, even though you're doing a thing that's like very buddies, there are certain people who will find that extremely off-putting. And then Intern, which is the inverse of CEO, where anytime you are given an order, you have to take it. And then I think with that, we've covered all of them. But I think for me, I want to pick Hotline. The other thing that we didn't mention was that the initial requisitions of Hotline, the initial requisition of Hotline is a tape player called Hold Music Volume 1, where you can play it, and for a full hour, you and your allies go into a waiting room, and when you return, no time will have passed. So you basically have an hour to like talk through things, relax, figure out what to do.
And I love those initial requisitions, because, and like in our actual play, how much they came up. Like I think we hit everybody's. And Keegan, you used your Gravedigger one, right?
I used both of mine. Yeah, because I switched.
Yeah, like they were awesome. Because what the CEO's was expense account.
Yeah,
you can buy anything, and like having that, like the second I read it, it was burning a hole in my pocket. I was just like, when am I gonna use this? Versus everything else about it was like, crap, this is hard. Like everything else is hard, but like, and that's what's fun about these, is they're balanced in a way of like, I'm being given a flaw that is difficult to navigate, but I'm also being given this very cool power that I can just use when I want. Like it feels good as a player, right? Like again, I don't ever feel like I'm not being put in an impossible situation, just a very complicated one, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm so glad. I think you hit on exactly right, that the balance in these sometimes is that the ones of those initial requisitions that are the most powerful are often attached to the ones that are the most challenging. Public relations has the not allowed to lie, but they get the requisition that allows them to print a story they write in all publications around them very quickly the next day, and that has been used to clean up a lot of missions at the end when big things have happened. And that's the trade. You get this like extremely powerful thing for this game system, but while you're literally playing, you can't lie.
Right.
That one was so hard.
So good.
I think about it every day. Every time I tell a line in RP, I'm like, damn, I'm so glad I can do this.
It's very good. The other thing I just want to point out, and this is like this is absolutely 100% a tangent and nothing other. For Hotline, it's never say unfortunately. That is such a hard thing to learn. And I catch myself all the time, like answering an email. Unfortunately, no, get rid of it. It's not unfortunate. It's just the way how it is. Gosh dang it.
So many of these are based on like things I was taught by a boss, and some of them have been useful and that I do find very fun, but they are all like, oh gosh, like you're getting the history of me in all my jobs. And getting, like,
that one that resonates with me deeply. I saw it and I was like, man, that is so hard. Correct, don't do it, but it's so hard to break that habit. Okay, great. So we've got our 3. I think we also need to develop. You tell me, Caleb, should we do your self-assessment for your competency and then move to building the relationships?
Sure, I think that sounds great. I don't have a self-assessment in front of me. Do y'all? You want to ask me the question?
I've got you.
A lot of these questions were written by Sean. They're so good. I want to. Sean did an incredible job with these, and this is one of my favorite parts of the whole rulebook.
So self-assessment, when you assume the role of Hotline, complete the self-examination of your intended approach to the position and assigned the appropriate quality surges, which are like your stats, right? And mark 1 answer per question. Number 1, a customer approaches me with an issue that I have been unable to fix in my own life. I share the approaches that have failed to save them time, or assure them that we can find a solution together.
Yes. So part of what I think the joke of this one is that the end of that one is duplicity is what you get, because it's just straight up a lie. But I think in keeping with the Hotline goal and like the kind of person I want to be, I will say share the approaches that have failed to save them time. And I also think that that's true. I am very much somebody who spends a lot of time talking about things that have gone wrong and how they can be fixed. I'm one of those people that complains forward. So I think that's a good choice.
I love it. Second question. I'm approached by a customer with a broken product and a convincing story. I help them by A, pulling every string necessary to get them a refund, or B, making it clear that all sales are final.
And again, this one, the punchline that Sean has put in here is that you get dynamism for the second one, which is the closest thing we have to a physical violence quality.
Which is very good.
I think I have to say making it clear that all sales are final. That's closer to my actual personality. And how I handle it. I joke about this. I've spent a lot of time in customer services positions, but I have one of my favorite things I have is my like stupid guy face. Is like, as soon as I'm in a situation where somebody's like being like difficult with me, the character I go into is like, I'm sorry, I'm the biggest idiot in the world. I can't possibly solve this for you. And because it's way, way more fun for me in that exchange for them to think I'm like a huge idiot than it is for me to have to sit there and describe to them why I can't do it.
Right.
And gosh, yeah, I could talk about retail stories forever, but definitely my angle would always be, I'm sorry, this is just how it goes. I wish I could do something about this.
God, I wish I had
just
that
don't
angle.
even.
I don't know how this computer works.
It's my first day of being.
Right. No, I'm sorry.
Yesterday, I'm so sorry.
I don't get it at all. I wish. Whoa.
Yeah, man.
Really?
That's weird.
That
is really weird of you to even ask or even suggest that. I've never heard that. No, I've worked here for a while, but I just never heard anybody ask for that before. I don't even know what we do.
This has never come up before. I'm so sorry. If you'd like, I can take your information down, but our email isn't working, so I'm gonna have to try not to lose it.
My manager's on vacation for the next 6 months, so I can let her know when she gets back, I think.
Yeah, this is so different from me, because if I have if I'm doing retail and someone has a problem, I'm just an unimaginable dick about it.
I feel
unimaginably rude.
I see. My experience with that is that angle only makes me have to deal with them for longer. Most of the time.
I love dealing with See, that's the fun part for me is I have to work with fewer people today. Great.
Oh, let's do this. That is a gift that you have.
Hours.
See, and I'm very much the like, okay, let's get you taken care of. Like that's the people pleaser in me cannot be defeated. A great example of this is I got a phone call. So I work in banking. I got a phone call from a local branch in Idaho where some teller had somehow gotten my phone number and was asking me questions on how to remove a hold on a loan or like on an account. I am not in this business at all. I have no idea what she's talking to me about. And I'm like, yeah, I'll figure it out. And I spent the next 8 hours navigating our tech group to find someone who could help this teller in like Idaho Falls with this loan. Like
the three of us are so different. We are the three employees.
Yeah, 100% what I did. Like I had to figure out how she found me in the first place. It was crazy, but 100% I spent so much time and then followed up with her like after the weekend to like, hey, you got everything squared away, right? She's like, yeah, we're set, we're cool. And I was like, neat.
I'm so happy people like you exist. The world is rolling.
Oh gosh,
it's the world. The wheels are turning, and it's all thanks to you. Me and Keegan are over here like immediately erasing our minds or getting in a fight. You are like, all right, let's fix the problem.
All right, what do you need? What do you need that will make you go away? Okay, great, love that. But I think they're all valid approaches because I respect the hell out of being able to just like nope out. Like I don't even know what that would look like for me. Like
this is so wild because the number of times I've asked a customer directly, "Are you trying to fight me?" It would blow your mind.
Keegan is adding, unfortunately, to sentences that didn't need it. Is what's happening.
Anyway, I would have gotten dynamism.
Oh my gosh.
That's what I did. I am getting the dynamism.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do that too. Just different way.
Okay, we got one last question. My call with a customer disconnected. I call them back and submit a maintenance request, or I complete the call without them. When the skill being presence, which is very good.
Yes. Yeah. I think I am not the person to complete the call without them. So I think I have to do the first one.
That's very good. What were you saying, Keegan?
Oh, I was just saying, unfortunately, you're not Sarah. You won't be on the phone with them for 8 hours trying to figure it out.
Well, that's a good question. That's honestly true. Is like if we're talking about these as a real world dichotomy, I think the second one is closer because I am more likely to be like, let me go figure that out. Hang up the phone, and then never ever call back.
Oh, that's crazy. Your social security number is the same as mine. Neat.
That's so cool. Actually, that's so funny that you say that. I'm putting that number right now into getting myself a loan. It's so weird.
So interesting. Oh my gosh, I love it. Awesome. So we've got that. We've got some quality assurances. We won't have to go into the nitty-gritties of those for the purposes here. But the next thing, and one of the best parts about this entire game, I think, are the relationships. I'm very excited to build these out.
Oh yeah, I'm excited to see how this comes out. Who we talk about today.
So tell us a little bit about it, Caleb. What are relationships? Why do they matter? What do we have to do?
So the relationships in this game are the way that your reality kind of can come into play most often in gameplay. It is the three at the beginning of the game most important people in your life, or I should say, even if they're not the most important people, they're the people for whom you have the most active tension or relationship with, where something is happening in that relationship. Each one has 3 questions. Those questions are designed to help your reality get to a place where the second you hit the table, you have relationships with people that have a potential conflict, or at least are in motion. They are charged and powerful relationships that you want to get to know. And you assign them to everybody at the table so that the GM doesn't only control every character. Everybody at the table ends with a number of characters equal to the number of players in the group. And you will be playing a wide cast of people that are sort of like the side cast to your core team. That's the idea.
Perfect. I love it. And that engaging everybody in the table all at the same time, like keeping that player engagement. Like one thing I loved about this game is it never felt like it wasn't my turn. And like keeping that engagement from the setup all the way through, being able to pull in randomly, it was very good. Yes, the Twinkertons got me. I'll just say it.
that is a recurring bit in the Discord now of the Twinkertons as like a pseudo triangle agency like place and group of people. And it's cursed. And they're banned. Nox is banned. Sorry. Bye.
I love it. So here we go. We've got 3, and like we've got these options. I guess this is a question. Are these in the red? We've got the little triangle. Are those kind of the ones that you stick with as far as creating those relationships? Is it intended to get more freeform than that, or is it really like pick these 3?
So you start with those 3, and that'll be the same in the full game. Most of these are going to stay the same because they have all worked pretty well. What happens is if you decide to focus in on your reality, you can start expanding that network of people. So people you meet during your missions, you can add to your reality list. When you spend time in realities with characters, they can become people who are stable. Like your bit with them, your struggle with them kind of wraps up, and then they become someone who's on your team in such a way that they're able to help boost your broader network and help you sustain more relationships, which increases the potential cast at your table, but really just starts to fill out your town, right? Like if everybody spends some time with their reality, eventually you have these really developed zones of the world and like interactions with different people. And in some cool and weirder cases, some of the more strange things that you confront can also become relationships depending on how you've developed your character. Like there are certain points where certain characters who've made particular choices with how to spend their time gain the ability to spend time with anomalies, for example, who have escaped. And there are, so the reality, I should say, each of these 3 character pieces also corresponds to one of the things you can invest in as a character over your time as an agent. And each one has its own like tree of progress that is itself a little bit of a narrative that you can run through each time. You can mix and match between them, but you can also fully commit to one of these. So if you want your character, even though you're having to do your job, you can spend all your free time focused just on your real mundane life. And that itself will have some big and interesting effects on your character's future and on the world that are unique and I think going to be harder to predict than what you might think would come from leaning into your anomaly or leaning into your agency job. So I'm really excited for people to see those.
Yeah. So let's just run through these. The first one being, who is your successor? Examples being Wings, Scheming Lieutenant, or Beloved Orphan. All very good prompts, by the way.
Thank you. I think if we're talking about my my organization and my constituents being the Haunted Table, Sean and I are like co-leaders of it. So the easy answer is Sean, but I'm trying to think of like, what is the harder answer? Like if Sean and I both have this role, like who is the person that takes over beyond me? Gosh, I don't know. I almost want to dip into fantasy for this. And I just imagine there's somebody out there waiting who's like the perfect inheritor for Triangle Agency, who would be better at it than me in every way, who's like the most brilliant designer ever, who's like the second that I disappeared or got kicked out would step up and take over and would make it the best thing ever. And that's the thing that would compel me to not want to
It's the spirit that's haunting the table.
Right, exactly. It's Chair. Yeah. That's what we named that little ghost.
I love it. Yes. The next one is who.
So we'll just say it's Keegan.
Oh, there we go. That's good. Very good. Who can never even remember your organization's name? Bartender, spouse, climbing instructor. The spouse one wrecked me. It's so good.
Yeah, that would be the funny joke, except that Michael has been so involved now with the process. Our Kickstarter campaign page was designed visually by my husband and has been there along with me the whole way. Even when I was doing the layout for the Delta test, a lot of why it looks as good as it does is because I could finish a page and then turn my laptop around and be like, hello, please fix this. Tell me what to do. So huge, incredible. I I mean, the haunted table little ghost that you're talking about, that's like our logo, was also made by my husband. So can't say my spouse in this case. I think what I think I would have to say like my mom.
It's gonna be a parent. I can just feel it.
100%.
I think at this point she probably actually would remember, but she's the person most likely to be like, it'll take me a few minutes. Like, let's see, like
possessed,
ghost. Yeah.
Chair.
Or at least if you asked her to like fully explain what was going on, definitely not. But and that would also be an interesting dynamic. That would be fun to have her involved.
I think that like parents and understanding TTRPGs are like that space that they're in is such a wild thing, right? Because it's like, even like my own mom, I was like, so, like, are you still doing that game thing where you put ears on sometimes? Like she had just no concept at all, and it's like, yeah, Mom, sometimes I glue ears to my ears. It's okay.
I feel that so hard. My mom came to me like a number of months back and was like, you know, I mentioned to somebody that you do D&D stuff, and I was like, I literally don't do D&D. And she's like, no, but get this. I said your name and they knew who you were. And I was like, okay. I mean, sure.
Are you still cosplaying? It's not. No, Mom, no.
Are you still putting ears on? Such a good question.
Can you use this for one of your costumes? Is always the thing too. Whenever I go home, it's always like, here's some bit of greenery. Like, can you use this? And I'm like, no. I love you so much. No.
I'm lucky. My dad was like a big like original D&D nerd for a long time. When he was younger. I just had a flash of wanting to tell a story, but it's his story, so I feel like I can't tell it. My mom is like a cyclist, like does not touch a computer anymore unless she absolutely has to, like kind of person. Right. And it would be she's just so far removed from it. She's building a house right now by hand, you know.
She's working on some other projects.
Right.
The last question is, and this is a good one. Who threatens your organization's continued existence? A rival organization leader, a local politician, or a bad apple? This is very good.
Yeah.
We know the answer to this one already.
Please tell me.
It's the Twinkertons.
The Twinkertons. Yeah.
The
Twinkertons. Everybody giving me very normal smiles in the chat right now. Just wondering. Yes, it's obviously the Twinkertons. It is the threat. It's me through the Twinkertons, which is the threat that if I hear the word Twinkertons one more time, I'm canceling the campaign before it even ends. I won't collect $1.
Twinkerton, let's go. Let's see you do it.
This is Keegan's energy.
No, I think that's the funny answer, and I think it's I have there's 3 in my head. There's that one, which is the good funny answer. Then there is the most real answer probably, which is like the threat of me somehow imploding. That's what most threatens it. And then the one that I think is true for all of us, which is like what most threatens our organizations continuing to exist is like our ability to continue convincing people that there is more than one game in the world to play, and our ability to keep finding an audience that is not just
of the Coast. It's fine.
Yeah, it's okay. We got it.
Right. Well, listen, if they want to hand me a lot of money one day to erase this stream from existence,
I will pull the stream down for $50.
But
it'll go so fast.
Shout out. My Venmo is at KeeganEXE. If you are listening to this and you work at D&D, I will pull it down.
I mean, it's worth saying the Twinkertons joke came from the Wizards of the Coast. So it's like
100%.
It is still actually the Twinkertons.
It's still the same organization. I don't know. I kind of love the idea that there's like a Nega Caleb that's like kind of running behind you, like undoing all of your work. I'm just like, no.
That's how it feels sometimes.
That's how it feels. Love the energy of if we were actually playing this game. Putting Nega yourself.
Dark Caleb is there.
Oh, so good.
It's Caleb, but he's been off.
It's me. Yeah, it's me just like 2 days later on my depression cycle. Like now everything's bad.
It's instead of only buying shirts, he only buys pants.
Right. If only we could be friends. If only we could combine.
The world's not ready, Caleb. We can't handle it.
No.
Oh gosh.
We have to night and day be dueling each other across the sky, or else
or else
the tides would fall.
We can't. We can't. It can never be. This is such a tangent. Y'all know Lady Hawk, Michelle Pfeiffer, Matthew Broderick.
I've heard the word Lady Hawk.
Is this like Lady Bird got eaten? What's this?
Y'all, buckle up. Here we go. First of all, watch it. It's atrocious and beautiful and amazing. Like, the soundtrack alone is just flabbergasting. But the whole thing is like, we're in the French countryside with like castles and knights and stuff. And Matthew Broderick is this thief that's escaped from prison, and he gets swept up in this like big story of like prophecy and curses. Like, you've got an evil bishop, you have Michelle Pfeiffer, you have like I can't say anymore.
In there as Michelle Pfeiffer, right?
Yeah, playing herself. And also a hawk, so it's fine. But just watch it, just know, and like, this conversation will make more sense later.
Yeah, I have literally 0% understanding of how we got to Lady Hawk.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I can't.
You're not even gonna bridge it. You can't even bridge it.
I can't, because in the off chance that you watch this movie,
I'm gonna watch
I
it
want
in
every
a year
beat to like
it took you a year to
feel
watch
real.
Annihilation.
It didn't take an actual year. It took like
it took much longer than a year, because Annihilation came out much longer than a year ago.
It's true, but I was too scared. But then I read all the books, so I feel like I've made up.
You were ready.
I feel like now I'm a Annihilation scholar, and we can discuss it later.
Okay, sorry. Wait a second. You're talking about a movie from 1985?
Yes, I am.
I see. Now I understand.
Now it makes perfect sense.
So really, it's taken us much longer than it has taken you to watch Annihilation already.
Yeah, I am already winning.
Yeah.
So,
that way,
anyways, anybody who cares to know, just come back to Caleb's comment about the day and the night and having to exist in different worlds, and then we can know. That's it. That's all. We can move.
Everybody tweet Sarah every time after you watch Lady Hawk.
Tell me what you think. And like, I will tell you right now, if it's me nasty things, I will erase that from my mind.
Because it will be deleted.
Yeah, it never existed to me. It's the best movie that was ever made. I love it so much.
How dare you talk about a movie as if it's better than Batman and Robin?
Another notable bird movie.
We're going there. Caleb,
hey, Keegan, I would like to point out
movies.
I'd also like to point out that it was Keegan that brought up Batman this time, not me.
Yeah.
You know, I did bring it up because I was like, I'm surprised Sarah talking about day and night cycles and blah, blah, blah. This wasn't a Batman thing.
Right. Caleb, somehow not all of our streams, but a high number of our streams, Batman just makes an appearance. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's happened more than 3 times now.
I have a fun anecdote. I was greenlit to make a Batman graphic novel, and then it got canceled after it was already greenlit. RIP. That's fun Mai Tai. I was almost a Batman person. man alive.
So
close.
What could have been?
RIP.
Next triangle agency character, someone who was almost Batman.
Hawkman. No, wait, dang it. That's already done. Hawkman, but there's the E in it, like in Lady Hawk.
Yeah, correct. Great. I think we've completed the making of the character, unless I'm mistaken. We fulfilled all parameters.
No, we did it. The only things we didn't touch on were manifestation and lifestyle, but I think we got there through talking through a lot of them. The manifestation for Whisper for me would probably just be like, if I sing, you can see the notes in the air as little pieces of color. Like, that would be fun.
That'd be very cool.
That's the only thing I can really think of. And then lifestyle, again, already like, 1 shirt a year, 3 pads. That's all you got to know. That's all you need to know.
Very good. So now everyone should know how quick, fun, and easy it is to build a character in Triangle Agency. And they should want to play it with their friends and make a bunch of weird dudes like almost Batman. There's the link beneath Keegan's head on the overlay. If you haven't backed it yet, you absolutely should, or at least just go check out the page because there's a lot of really cool things going on there. Before we go, Caleb, I have just a couple of other questions for you that are just kind of general, more get to know you kind of things.
Sure.
One of which is when you're playing TTRPGs, right? We build a lot of characters, whether it's for a new system or we play characters and we play them for a long time. But one thing I like to ask people is, what kind of character do you find yourself playing over and over again? Who's the guy that like you kind of like fall back into?
Yeah, lately the thing. Okay, if I'll zoom out a little bit and talk about over the broad span of time. It's been guys who are like very rude, very rude characters who are like who have a very specific skill, and then I get to play up. I love the playing up of the like this person's been grumpy and hidden and like kind of mean, and then the second they're allowed to like go do their cool martial arts, they're like beautiful, gliding, like everything is perfect, and for that moment they're like kind of nice, and then they go back to being the like grumpy one. Lately what I've been trying to do as like a challenge is play like pull probably very hard to keep my character concepts like so low concept, like stay very like these are people, like if I'm playing a system, I'm not trying to do the thing that's like natural to me, which is like I want to be the one of the elves who's like different, you know, that's like totally a natural built-in thing for me. Instead I'm like no, I want to stay as close as I can because I like to see how the games are made and what they want from their like most straightforward characters. And with Triangle Agency, it's all about that. It's like, how many people can we get who are just going to play people? And how I find that as I get older and engage with more stories, like more and more valuable and fun. So a lot of the characters I've played lately have been variants on like, oh, I'm like a gay, anxious guy who's just kind of trying to get through it.
We're just doing it, man. We're waking up and we're doing it. Awesome. And then my last question, it's the bigger one. All of these things, right, are inspiration for game design, for the characters we play. It comes from somewhere, right? And who are 3 characters, media, movies, books, podcasts, whatever, doesn't matter, but 3 characters that you felt like really stuck with you and influence kind of some of your design choices, or like that you visit in your mind's eye often?
Yeah. One of them, to anybody who knows me very well at this point, is not going to be a surprise at all. I love the series called, they're called the Masquerade series, but the first one's called The Traitor Baru Cormorant. They are a fantasy series about this woman who sees her culture like totally destroyed when she's young, but also discovers she's like kind of a math and economics genius. And she gets put into these like awful like schools built by this empire that are like have happened in our real history, schools that are designed to like enculturate people out of their original like families and out of their original environments, and like make them like citizens of this other outside force. And she goes through that process, realizes how good she is at it, and then makes it her like life's goal to like, can I become a part of the system and try to take it apart? Those books are like right here next to me, these Baru Cormorant books, but I don't know if they're visible on the little screen. But that series is amazing, and it is probably my favorite book series ever. It's by Seth Dickinson. And that struggle, that challenge of like, that's made so like big and beautiful and well done in these books, but like in the most simple terms is like, can you, or what is the value of finding small choices you can make within a bad system to try to make it better? Or like, is that even possible? Or like, can you, is it possible to tear something apart after you've been in it for a long time? Like, those are the big questions of that story, and I find them really compelling for me personally, and like really compelling in a day-to-day way. And Triangle Agency as a game, like, it's something I've tried not to talk about too much publicly because I want part of how you engage with this to be in the art itself. But like, the game is about how you decide to interface with something that maybe doesn't have your best interests in mind, and maybe, who knows, doesn't have the best interests of the world in mind. And if that's the case, and you have found yourself a part of it, like what do you choose to do within that is like a huge part of how the game works on like a campaign meta level. I think for a lot of people. So that's like a huge influence for me. The Traitor Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. Please go read that book. Please go read that book.
One down.
Yeah, one down. Sorry, I'll go faster with the other two.
You're good. You're good. Take your time.
The other two, the next one is from Delicious in Dungeon, the manga. I don't know if y'all have ever read this.
I'm not.
There's a character,
but have not read it.
Like, it's so good. You should. There's a character in it named Kabru. And they are like a side character who is presented as like a mirror to the protagonist. And their whole deal is that they're part of this second group of people who, from watching the protagonist, becomes convinced, because Kabru's mind works such that everything is like on 3 levels at once, and they're like always plotting around what's happening and trying to make things work and analyzing everybody, that when they see these protagonists kind of stumbling through, they convince themselves that there is a master plan that the main team is like part of, and becomes very suspicious of them. And I find that to be a personal problem of mine, is that like overanalyzing and that anxious, like putting yourself too hard into what other people are thinking about you or what they might be doing, and then like making it way more complicated than it actually is. I find that very easy to attach to, and also is a fun thing to play. And then the last one is Amy Rose in Sonic the Hedgehog, because, you know, I empathize with having an enormous crush on someone who doesn't. Yeah, exactly, because I'm a hedgehog. There is just no better character design in the world than like cool girl with a big hammer. There's just no better design than that. That is as good as it gets. And I would love to see anybody show me anything better than that. But that is definitely, in my opinion, like the coolest one that you can have. So that's she's always there in the back of my mind.
Lurking. Yeah. I love it. Thank you so much. Caleb, this has been awesome. Thank you for coming and being vulnerable and talking about your game and about yourself. It was a really good time. I'm gonna give chat like a couple of seconds. We were taking chat questions, and we will take chat questions as we kind of start to wrap up here. Caleb, is there anything about the game that you wanted to kind of touch on that you didn't get to, or anything you would like to add about it?
Oh gosh, no, we did such a good job of going through all this stuff, and I really appreciate all the questions you asked, and it was very fun to get to talk about all this stuff in this different format. And I just hope that people will check it out and back it, and even if it's outside of the genre that you typically like, I think there's a lot of stuff to play with in here that's just fun from a roleplay perspective and fun for any table. We've already been so lucky and so gifted with the response that I'm not in a position where I'm like, please, you must come, please save me. But
I'm begging.
Yeah, but I do want this community to keep growing, and I do want to see more people playing and engaging with the game, and I hope that when it comes, everybody will see it for what we have tried to do. So I'm excited for the final version.
Yeah, I'm super jazzed. It was a real quick, like, oh, I gotta back that immediately. The page is beautiful. Keegan's sharing it with chat now, but definitely go check it out. Give it a gander. Caleb, where can people find you? If and keep an update on Sonic happenings or whatever. I don't know. What are the kids these days? I don't know.
Gosh, I think honestly the best way to get a hold of me now, because we don't know what's really going on with social media, and also because with the way things have gone, I kind of want to leave some of it, is to join the Haunted Table Discord. I'm there all the time. I'm talking to people all the time, and if you have a question about the game or you want to hear from me, that's a great place to go. You can get there by going to kickstarter.hauntedtable.games. And we have a great community that is growing right now, and that has been super active during the campaign. That I think is super fun to be a part of. So that's the best place to hear from me. But until Twitter is gone, if you want a moment to moment thing, I'm on Twitter at CZaneH, and I'm working on getting a co-host. So we'll see.
Yeah, who knows?
We'll see.
When Twitter
but Haunted
dies, I'm
Table,
going down with it.
Right. That's kind of how I feel. Is I'm this is the one that I allowed to get into my brain, so I don't want to really hand any other one that power.
Well, I just, the interaction that I wanted and found on Twitter in my own safe little bubble was very, very good. And the idea that I can repeat that anywhere else feels silly and not true.
I can't take my block list with me. I'm not going.
Yeah, like starting over, like no.
Yeah, very scary.
No. And on that note, Keegan, do we have any cult stuff that we want to talk about that we've maybe got coming up?
I don't know at this point. I don't think so.
We're working on several actual plays. You'll know more when we decide to talk about it, wherever we decide to talk about it. But it would be a good opportunity to encourage folks to join the +1 Discord, or if you wanted more direct access to some of the cult shenanigans, we also invite you to come to Hell with us. Hell.exe is the Discord where we talk about feet storage and is it sentient? So it's a good time.
Sure, what a good sell. We should end this there.
We should. Thanks again, Caleb. Thanks everybody.
Thank you.